Today we're going to talk about index allocations and MYGAs. Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode. I am Chad Owen, the Annuity Sales Coach, and here is Boy Wonder.
Back
it's
to
my
Boy
side,
Wonder.
back to Boy Wonder because I can't figure out something else. Man, you guys have been following us for quite a while. He's been Boy Wonder for a while. Then he was the creepy mustache guy with a white van and no windows. And then now he's back to Boy Wonder.
I had an agent try to name me the go-to guy.
No, that's definitely not the case because if it's go-to's the guy, I'd have grandkids by now.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's the reality. I've been trying to go to you for grandkids for a while, and it's still not working.
Well,
So
you can keep waiting.
Oh, that's how am I supposed to do this and be depressed at the same
Yeah.
time?
Well, we're going to talk about index allocations and MYGAs today.
Yay, over grandkids.
MYGAs.
Can you imagine the pressure? You know, he works with me every single day, and every single day I'm like, when am I going to hear about grandkids? It's just unbearable.
It's, the pressure is virtually non-existent.
You made Leilani cry the other night.
How
She
so?
doesn't have grandkids
Oh
yet.
my gosh, whatever.
Actually, it is true. She did get teary-eyed. But anyway.
That's funny. Well,
We
soon
got to
enough.
stop watching those dumb Hallmark channels where the grandparents have grandkids and yeah. Anyway, okay.
You're looking forward to relating with clients, I guess.
I am.
Yeah.
You know,
on
that
front.
honestly, that's something that is really neat about my business and what I get to do is because you do have clients that kind of
Right.
think the same way I think in a way where they're going, yeah, I want to make sure I have money for my kids, my grandkids. And it's almost always the grandkids over the kids.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
like, I
totally.
don't want it for my kids, but my grandkids on the other hand. And that's, I just got off the phone with a client and actually not a client, someone that was a potential lead, and they're 64 and 65 years old. They have $20,000 in their IRA
Wow.
and no savings.
And no 401k, no
Nothing.
no
That was it. $20 totally, $20,000 totally to their name. And you could tell just by the conversation that we had, that's very defeating.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you can come out of that. I mean, we can talk about indexes and MYGAs, but if they have no money, there's nothing you can do.
You can't do anything.
And, a lot of agents would say, wow, I can take 10 grand of that and put it into an annuity and then 10 grand for, emergency funds. I'm like, no, if you're 64 and 65 and you only have 20 grand to your name,
Right.
there's going to be cars that are going to break down. There's going to be refrigerators that are going to break. I mean, whatever. You're going to need that money accessible.
No kidding. Wow. Well, and
guys.
that's only if there's a company that would deem, determine their suitability off of percentage. But
Yeah,
I've talked with some carrier suitability that they determine it off of how many months of living expenses are
Yeah,
covered.
they could, but the reality is there's a few out there that have real stringent suitability, and then there's some that they just take the agent's word for
Right,
it.
they kinda understand a little bit.
Yeah, and so, when I've gotten some crazy cases approved through suitability that, most people wouldn't, but I looked at their income. I had a complete fact finder. I
Right.
was able to send them everything. And, they look at it too and they go, wow, this guy really did his due diligence on this one. Well, you would think we were talking about
Yeah.
suitability, but we're not.
We're not.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, index allocations and MYGAs. So the market's down, which
Way down.
way down, which directly means that most indexes are down. There are still, I think, a few volatility control indexes that may still be positive for the year, but by very fractional amounts.
Sure.
But rates are up. And so this is an interesting thing because it's enticing when you see increased par rates to start thinking, oh man, these index allocations, because on paper they still look really good. But we know that the current market conditions are not very good, and there's kind of two schools of thought here, Chad, and I want you to address both. And one school of thought says, okay, the market's already down a fair amount. My clients that I get right now, I want to put them into an index allocation, and hopefully they kind of recapture some of the rebound if the rebound happens over the next year or 2 years. We don't know what to expect.
know.
The other side of the coin is, well, the market is down. we don't know how long this is going to last, so I'm going to use the fixed account. I'm going to use the fixed rate of return. So you kind of have the two schools of thought, two sides. What are your thoughts on those two?
Lately, now, I'm very clear with communication with my clients. I say, hey, if we are going to do the fixed account, like I have a fixed account right now and an indexed annuity that pays 2.65%.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a phenomenal 1-year return. But I tell them, be sure month 11, you give me a call when you get your index allocation statement and we can revisit that again.
Right.
If in a year we think the market's still going down again, well, then guess what? We're going to stay in the 1-year point to point on that for the fixed rate. And so, the reality is, what do you think the market's going to do? Now, back to our original thing we always talk about is nobody can time the market.
Right.
Nobody can. So that's why if there's even a remote hint of an income need, I always provide an income rider on that. And I go back into, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but I just talked to a client today. She's worried about her husband passing away first, and then she doesn't have enough income because $5,000 of their income goes away, which is half of it. And I go, oh, but remember, in his annuity, we attached an income rider to that. And here's the value now, which is 5 years later, of what that income account value. And she's like, you know what, that gives me a big peace of mind. I don't have to worry about it. And it's like, no, you don't have to. You're taken care of in that scenario. So, when you're looking at index allocations, that really is obviously important for some of those annuities that have some really good growth in combination of the income rider. But I'm going to get pretty direct. A lot of times people, agents only want to do the 7-year or the 10-year indexed annuity, and they don't want to do the income rider. And a lot of times it's because they know if they do the 7-year or the 10-year, they've got guaranteed repeat business in 7 or 10 years.
Potentially.
If I do an income rider, I've pretty much sealed the chances of them ever moving that money ever again, because to this day, I've never moved an existing client in almost 18 years, never moved one that's had an income rider on a product that I wrote.
Right.
And it's because I know I picked the best thing, and the income values are going to far surpass any sort of index growth. So that provides a really good income amount. Now, if we're talking straight indexed annuity, because last year probably, 15 to 20% of my annuities were written with straight indexed annuities. And it's because I ended up running into some pretty well-to-do clients last year that didn't need income.
Right.
But that's so rare. And I don't know where people are getting their leads or anything, because the reality is most of my clients, when you do a complete fact finder,
looking worst case scenario.
Yes, if the one of the two spouses pass away, they do not have enough income to live off of.
Right.
Well, I can take that and I can put that money into an annuity in 5 years. If there's a death, you don't have the income rider, but you have the index value that's available. But what if we run into 3 years where the index made nothing? And so, the reality is you need to really know the index strategies.
Right.
I mean, I know we have software that compares all of them in one shot.
Yeah.
And we can tell you who the top is, but it's important not to chase the top every single year, because the chances of last year's top being this year's top is pretty slim.
Right.
And the other beauty of index allocations in general is we want the market to tank.
Right.
That's the reality. We want the marks to be super high, and we want it to go down, because the reality is that creates the, okay, great, okay, fixed rate, and then maybe fixed rate again. Now the market's down again, but great. You don't have to worry about trying to time the market.
Right.
Now, the other thing people need to know about index allocations is it is all based off of what month did you get into the market. Yeah. So there can be, for example, in 2020, if you got in the beginning of 2020 and you got 1 year later, you didn't have that great of a return. But if you got in March of 2020 to March of the next year, you did phenomenal. Right. You just can't time it.
Right. And looking at 1 year timestamps on that index to get an accurate representation is really challenging. Because you can't, because you do have clients every month all throughout the year. So you're not getting an accurate representation, but there are a couple of things that you look for when you're making index allocation decisions. And It's to try to provide the highest chance for repeated success. So the two things are, number one, you got to have good renewal rates with the company you're using.
Rate integrity.
Yeah.
You need to have companies that have high rate integrity. They're not going to get you into some introductory rate and then next year renewal, they drop it a half. That's just...
Yeah. And then the other thing you're looking for is no more than a 2% difference between the best 10-year average and the worst 10-year average.
So, there's a lot of indices out there that you look at, and the best it's ever performed is, let's say, 12%. The worst it's ever performed is 2%. That's a 10% spread.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
that's
no good recipe.
So what I do is I make sure the best and the worst have at least the maximum of a 2% spread in there. So what that means, the worst it's ever performed is 5%. The best it's ever performed is 7%.
Right.
That's what I try and do, is just keep it in that range.
And this is a good opportunity to plug episode number 167, titled Selecting Index Strategies and Renewal Rates. I recommend you go back and find that episode.
We did something on that?
We did. We talked about selecting index strategies and renewal rates, the importance of renewal rates, and then how to properly select your index strategies. And I totally plugged that episode because that was a fun one. I nerd out over the index stuff.
I know you do. You nerd out at anything to do with spreadsheets and numbers and all that, which I really love. I honestly do.
It's so fun.
I mean, you're weird, but that's for many reasons, but that's one of them.
I literally was talking to oh gosh, I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been one of the agents I was working with, talking about, I genuinely love studying product. Yeah. I love studying product.
I don't, but I love what it does when I do. So, I mean, I know when I go to an appointment, I know I have the best product based off of historicals, based off of rate integrity, customer service. Like, I cannot stand companies that have poor customer service. It just, if they're going to treat me bad, what are they going to do to my clients?
Right.
And that's just so important. So I would say, and then when you look at MYGAs, I mean, the 10-year treasury is going up, which causes the MYGA rates to go up, which is still, I mean, I have not found a 5-year MYGA that was beat by any CD.
Yeah.
But you have to look at is, what is the purpose of the money?
That's exactly right.
And so MYGAs are something I don't use that often, because if they say, well, I only want a 5-year annuity, well, a lot of times they confuse that to where they want access within the 5 years. And that happens all the time. Well, can I get a 5-year annuity? I'm like, well, what's the purpose of that? Well, I want to draw income. Oh, well, a lot of these annuities, you can draw income right away, or you can wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You can do that. You don't have to pick that right now. And they're like, oh, I thought when you got an annuity, you couldn't touch anything while it was in there. Right. And that's where a very good explanation on how indexed annuities works.
Can I say that's why it's so important to ask good questions?
Yes.
And not just take what the client says and then just fill an order?
Well, I was actually talking with one of our Inner Circle agents, and Inner Circle, we have a few of those spots open, and that is where you get one-on-one training with me.
Yeah, so
now, you pay some for it, but you know what? One $300,000 annuity covers an entire year for Inner Circle. Yep. When I'm talking with his Inner Circle agent, and he goes, it's kind of funny because your average case size is over 400,000. My average case size is only over 200,000. So I actually did a role play with him, and I said, hey, do a fact finder with me. And within the first just asking income, I had to stop them and I say, hey, you are not setting up for the future. You are not getting this going on from here. And so I said, what I'll do is I'll just do a fact finder with you and you be the client. And by the time I was done with that, they're going, that's why you get the big sales. I know how to ask the questions that really dials in what the purpose of the money, where they have it, and literally what's at risk, what's not. Do you want something that can lose all your money, some of your money, none of your money? I mean, it really comes down to the purpose of the money, where it is, what taxable rate it's at, as far as if it's an IRA, Roth IRA, or non-qualified. I mean, I go over all of it.
Yeah.
And I think as agents, I'm part of this group, and on multiple groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. And some of the questions people ask, I'm not knocking someone being brand new to the industry. What I'm knocking is practicing your knowledge and trying to learn things when you're helping clients. And I see some of these questions, I'm going, you shouldn't even be talking to a client about annuities till you know that answer to that question.
Right.
You know, what are the different types of annuities? That's something you should know.
Oh, yeah.
Before you even talk.
And be able to create understandable and educated distinction between them, because you will have clients say, oh, I hate annuities. Well, what do you hate about them?
Yeah.
Right?
But
what is it?
You know what, though? But I've gotten people that give me massive flack for that. And you got to learn somewhere. Okay, you know what? Next time you have surgery, I want you to go to the guy who's just literally opened up the medical book, and they're going to operate on you.
Right.
They're going to test out on you.
Right. Yeah, and every surgeon has a first surgery. Every annuity agent will have a first sale.
But they went through 10 years of training to be able to do that first surgery.
Right. That's why it's so important to learn.
Yeah, you've got to know what you're doing there. You've got to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I've got just a couple of last questions. I know we got just a couple of minutes here. When do you know, and how do you determine when to use the fixed account or an index strategy? Right now, when the market is down and the fixed accounts are pretty competitive. I mean, you talk about 2.65%.
Find me anything else out there that pays 2.65% guaranteed for 1 year. No, in a bank.
Oh, at
a money market.
I see what you're saying.
Anywhere.
I thought you were talking about a fixed account in an FIA.
Find me any other, outside of the FIA, find me any other account that guarantees for 1 year 2.65%.
I mean,
now, if you don't know what product I'm talking about, you guys know Retirement Realized Financial. We're our own FMO. We're more than happy to share that with you.
It is a good product.
It's a doozy right now, and it's actually accounted for a lot of my business. Now, I've already stated, if they changed what they do and how they do it, I'm moving on to the next. Yep. I do not become ever committed to one company.
Right.
It's multiple companies. It's multiple products. It's always based off of how old are you? When do you want to retire? Are you married? Are you single? When do you want to draw income? That's what picks the companies. So not what one, product funneling drives me nuts.
It's true.
Yeah.
So you're literally just having conversation with the client about the fixed account, and the index strategies, and allocate according to that conversation. Yep. And then the last one is MYGAs right now, we've got 5 years that are paying over 3%. Yeah, that's a tempting thing when the market's down. I got to think there's potentially some easy sales there. How should agents know when they should use MYGAs?
5 years is still a long time. I mean, 5 years, I go back to the purpose of the money. If this is literally money that you just don't plan on touching, there's no purpose for it. It's literally a pass on to heirs. You don't want to tie it up for a long period of time. That's when a MYGA comes into play. Yeah. If you ever want anything to do with the higher index possibilities, if you want, once again, 2.65% for 1 year versus 3.05% for a 5 year.
Right.
But what's the purpose of the money? You
can't do any better than that, than 3 whatever percent you're talking about. You could do better in future years if you allocate to a good fixed account. You can change that with your annual statements and go into an index if the market starts performing better.
If you do that right, even close to right, and when I'm saying close, you got a 75% chance of kind of knowing when the bottom is. Most people kind of know when the bottom is from the standpoint of you're within 15 to 20% of the bottom. I know that sounds like a lot, but there's some things. I remember 2007 to 2008, people thought we were at the bottom in 2008. Then 2008 to 2009 hit, and it was even worse.
Found a new bottom.
Yeah, you just can't time these things, but you can know approximately. Like I could have told you a year and a half ago that we were approaching the top of a market.
Right.
Now, it still went up quite a bit. But the point is I am not a variable guy. I will not tell you when to get in. I don't care what the product is. I will not tell you when to get out.
Right.
I will tell you, here's what's available for you for safety and security. If you want to protect your money, that is your decision. You need to make the decision, and you need to liquidate the funds however you feel appropriate, because that's not my decision.
Right.
And I'm not telling you to do it or not to do it. Here's the facts. You make the decision.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so good. Well, that's a wrap for today.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I appreciate your time, and of course, happy selling.